when you're evaluating schools are what kind of assistance do they provide in the application process? Do they provide fee waivers for students so that you don't have to come out of pocket to apply? And on the back end, what type of loan forgiveness programs do they have, depending upon the kind of work that the student might go into, whether it's public service or government or something of that nature. So I think I'll leave it there for now, and then we'll, happy to address more in the Q&A.
All right, Nydia, information that you'd like to share with parents about the law school selection process.
Sure. So I think that, there's so many factors, as Tony pointed out, that contribute to choosing the right law school. I always suggest to my students and any students that I work with to visit the schools that they're interested in. I think that's really important to get a sense for the community, to figure out if you picture yourself there, how folks respond to you on that campus. So you just get a sense for how the individuals there interact. Law school is a large commitment. If it's not time, it's money. If it's not money, it's time, or it's both, right? And so you want to make sure that you are investing in a school that is going to invest in you, and that they're going to get behind you, that they're going to provide the resources. And I think for some ranks, for your child, ranks might be very important to them for the kind of law they picture themselves going into. Maybe that's big law or medium law, and they feel that the ranks are going to give them an edge, right? For others that are going into other areas of law, ranks might not be that important. And so you really want to balance, and you want to look at it like a scale and say, is what more important here, that I'm getting more of the tuition covered through scholarships and other things so that I can get out of law school with as little debt as possible, right? That might be an important consideration. I think Tony also mentioned loan forgiveness programs, right? If you're getting into, if your child is getting into a line of work where there are loan forgiveness programs available to them, then, and they've made that commitment, right, that they're going to go that route, then maybe the cost is not as significant. One of the things I really find important, and I host a program at my law school called It Takes a Village, Supporting Your Loved One Through Law School. And I've really enjoyed hosting that, is to just talk to, in particular, first generation families, right, about what it's going to look like for their loved one in law school. For me, from my first gen experience, which was, first gen family in America, right? And so that, I think there's first gen in college and law school, and then there's first gen Americans, right? And they're kind of two very different experiences. But for me, I was the star of the family, right? Second I applied for law school, my entire family thought I was a lawyer already. And they were telling everyone, right, that I was a lawyer. And so there was a lot of pressure with that, excitement, but also a lot of pressure. When I got to law school, I realized I was not the unicorn that my family told me that I was, and everyone was smart in law school, right? And so that was a very different dynamic, and I felt like I was, living in two worlds, where my family thought I was really smart and I had it figured out, so they still expected me at Easter, quinceañeras, Christmas, all of the parties, they expected me to be there. And they didn't understand, right? Hence, that parents just don't understand, right? They didn't understand that I had a new level that I was trying to attain and reach, right? It was unlike what I had been doing previously. And I think that's what's important for parents to understand, is that it's going to take your loved one, your spouse, your child, whomever that you're on this journey with, some time to get it figured out. Right? It's not going to be instantly. And the best thing that you can do for them is to support them, to listen when they say that it's hard. Food is always helpful, a nice cooked meal, let them get back to studying. But just know this is a short-term commitment, right? It might be 3 years, it might be 4 years if they're in a part-time program. But if you are a first-gen family embarking in law school, you are changing the trajectory of your family. and that is what your loved one is doing. And that takes time, and that takes a different type of dedication. And it's going to take a different amount of support from the families to get your child through this period of, 3 to 4 years. So I'll end with that, but thank you.
Really appreciate that, Nydia. And one thing helped me when I was in law school. Someone said, because your family's automatically thinking you're a lawyer, and then I think by the time I actually became an attorney, they assumed that I was already a judge. So your family is so super excited that it can inadvertently cause some challenges for you. One thing someone said to me: if you act like a lawyer when you're in law school, you'll be in law school when you should be a lawyer. And that stuck with me. But I really appreciate you saying that and making it clear again. And Tony, your comments were spot on as well. Now I'd like to yield the floor to Jennifer to tell us some points that we should share with parents about the selection of law schools, as well as any other real advice that you have. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. I'm coming to you from New Jersey, so it's good afternoon, but probably good morning for a lot of you there as well. I'm going to talk about a couple things, highlighting my capacity here at LSAC, the Law School Admissions Council. I'm an ambassador on their behalf, and then kind of talk a little bit about my personal experience and things that really stood out to me as a former candidate and law school graduate, and also too as an admissions professional as well. So I kind of have multiple legal admissions hats, if you will. So the first thing that I always like to start with is to highlight that this is not only a business decision and an academic decision to go to law school, but it's very much a personal decision. And so you're going to have to immerse yourself within that community and live there for 3 years. And so you want to make sure that your child is comfortable, and supporting them with that decision is really the utmost importance as well. Like Nydia said, visiting the community and spending time there and interacting not only with the professors and the deans and the students, but also to the outside community as well, is really going to be important. The second thing that I think is very important is to highlight that this is an expensive endeavor. However, I'm all about positive reframe throughout any facet of my life and job. And so the positive reframe for the expense of law school is it's an investment in you. And this is an investment that no one will be able to take away from you, and that will stay with you for your entire life. And so when you put it in that way, yes, it's a lot of money and it's a lot of time, but personally, I can say it's the best thing that I've ever done in my life. And it will have such an effect not only on your child, but also to your family and what they will bring to the society and your community as well after they graduate. And I think the last thing that I want to highlight, and then I'll say some other things as well, is that it's going to be a unique experience for everyone. So trying not to compare your child to anybody else or what you hear in the news, rankings, like what was said already, is depending on your professional goals. That's really where you need to navigate your search and what school is going to be a good fit for you. So taking into consideration that will be really helpful as well. There's fee waiver programs that are offered through LSAC specifically to help with the expense, but also to a lot of the allied organizations and the law schools themselves. So just make sure that you're doing some research, helping your child along with those, and making them know that it is an attainable goal. Just kind of being their cheerleader, which I know all family members are always the biggest cheerleaders, but being an advocate cheerleader and making them help just kind of demystify all the different things that go along with it. And also to being an emotional support is going to be really essential, highlighting that with every hour and 15-minute course, that's how long my classes were in law school, just knowing that it takes approximately 3 hours to prepare for that 1 hour and 15-minute class, and that could be longer or shorter. So kind of taking that into consideration, and then building expectations with respect to spending time with family and friends, just being cognizant of that time investment that they're under, and not putting additional pressures on the child throughout their legal enrollment journey, for sure. And then lastly, I will say that it's also really important to know the emotional endeavor part of this as well. And if your child comes to you and is looking to kind of vent or talk about a difficult situation, that saying you can do it is, yes, very helpful, but kind of dismissive, and that the better way would be to listen to them, and then obviously continue to promote that you can do it mind frame as well. So those were just some high level takeaways, again, from my personal and professional experience with respect to law school.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate that information and that wisdom. Because law school is hard, and definitely have to think about the mental, the taxing, on your mental state as it relates to attending law school, and some things that families say could make it worse before it gets better. Like, saying, oh, you're smart, you always get A's, you're a great student. And so I think that it's important to just understand the complexity of this moment. And I really want to open the room to see if we have any questions. And this is for parents as well as students in the space. Does anyone have any questions in the chat?
Looks like there's a couple of hands. Jolanda and Thomas, I think, were trying to get in.
Okay, good. You said Jolanda? All
Hi,
right, let's go.
morning. Okay, sorry. I don't know if you
No,
were
good.
just
I
expecting
couldn't
questions.
see you. I couldn't see you. Go ahead, Jolanda.
Okay, thank
The
you.
floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jolanda, and I wanted to join this group to get two different perspectives. As of now, I'm currently in my grad program. I work full-time student, and I just really wanted to gain insights on, from a parent wanting to pursue law school, depending on the age, just because if, I do want to hopefully go into whichever occupation after my program, and then maybe contemplate law school in a couple of years, or just, like I said, myself as a student, what insight can either, parents or anyone else going through grad school, like law school, share that I can share with my family, just to help better explain not even just the time commitment, but the life commitment that entails, especially if I want that everything I'm learning to be my life's work.
Tony, do you want to start, and we can have anyone else jump in?
Sure. And so just to make sure I'm understanding, Jolanda, you are a parent and you're contemplating law school?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not a parent.
Okay.
But that's why I wanted to get the insight from, if in the future, if I, do become a parent and I do want to pursue law school at that time, but then also as a current grad school student, just insight from other parents that I could, hopefully share with my parents, just to help better explain that, obviously grad school now, it's a commitment. If I pursue law school, which that is my intention, that is a additional commitment of my life and time that, it's not like I'm just going to school just to avoid doing other things, just to help better explain that. And they're very cognizant of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, law school has a lot more stratification than, a regular grad school program. So, and maybe I'm just asking just to better prepare myself for what I should expect.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it. So as a couple of the other speakers, mentioned, and as you know, it's definitely a time commitment. So I think you want to be very clear and have conversations with people in your life about what that time commitment might look like. And these may have to be repeated conversations and reminders. But the other side, kind of counterbalancing that, is that law school isn't intended to be done 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think that's actually one of the missteps that students of all sorts make, is thinking that they have to sacrifice everything, can't spend any time with family, can't spend any time with their hobbies or pursuits, and just do law school. And that's really not a sustainable and not a helpful model. So there are ways to kind of do it all, even if it may be cutting back a little bit here and cutting back a little bit there. So I think explaining to folks like what the pathway is going to look like, what the time commitment is going to look like, but also to make sure that you're letting people know that you're also, they're important to you, and that law school is not going to supersede any of that. So that's, I guess, what I would just say kind of off the cuff.
And I don't know if any of our other panelists have anything to say to weigh in, but I see that we're joined by Nicole Bryant, who actually has a master's degree. I have a master's degree as well, and a law degree. And Nicole and I often joke about how like graduate school and professional school are totally different. And what you do in what you did, some of the commitments that you were family commitments that you were able to make when you're doing your master's degree are not going to be things you can do when you're in law school. And one piece of advice you should know, I did this, is I went back to the East Coast to see my family members. And since we have people from Philly here, I went to see my family in Philadelphia and New Jersey, like the summer before law school. And I said, anything happen in the next 3 years, I may not be able to come back. And, just to make sure you roll it all out and you let people know, you show them love when you can. Of course, during the semester breaks, you can do things, but I just think it's really important to keep the expectations really low because you want to, take as much pressure off yourself as far as, focusing on your grades, as well as some of the extracurricular activities on campus or related to the campus you might be involved in. Nicole, I don't know if you had anything that you'd like to add there, and I'll just yield the floor also for other panelists to jump in as well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Capri. And it's true, you have to be dedicated, and Dean Dueñez knows for sure. I was in her office so many times trying to figure out how to juggle life and school, and I worked full time when I was in law school as well. So you do have to prioritize your legal education when you're in law school, but it is possible, you can do it, but you have to definitely put everyone on notice and be dedicated to yourself and your legal education.
And Dean Dueñez,
Sure.
do you have
Thank
anything
you.
to add?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Just kind of how do you gear up and get ready for the journey? And I think a big component of that, if you intend to continue working, is selecting the right law school that has the programs to support someone who intends to work and attend law school. I think that's critical. Many times I'll work with students and they're not performing as well as they think they could, and we know they could, right? We admitted them to law school, and sometimes that factor is they've been juggling work and school and commitments, and something just has to give. It's really difficult to give 100% to 100 things, right? And so in my opinion, if law school is the priority and law school is the thing that has a short time frame and it has a big price tag attached to it, right? It has to get that 100%. Otherwise, you have to table it, and you have to think about when is the right time in your life to give it what it deserves, because it has an end date. It's 3 years or it's 4 years, and hopefully you're in there and you're out of there and you're passing the bar the first time. And so much of the bar exam is what you're learning in that first year of law school, right? It's critical to your success and an easy transition of passing the bar the first time, that you're able to dedicate the hours and the time and learn that information in your first year. So I think just, doing your research, picking the right school, a school that has a schedule that can complement that, so that you're not having to do a play change, halfway through the program kind of thing.
Good deal, good deal. Our next question, do we have?
I'm sorry, it's Capri. This
Yes,
is
go ahead.
Melinda Simmons. May I address Ms. Watson's question just briefly?
Yes, yes, please.
I just wanted to speak to, because she did ask a question about possibly being a parent while in law school, and I can speak to that directly, as I worked full time and I was a single mother while I went to law school. And so the biggest thing in my situation was time management. And I don't want to, it to be a discouraging situation. Obviously, you should focus while you're in law school, but for some people, it's not an option. I had to work. It wasn't a question of whether or not I could just go to school all day and study. I didn't have that option. So I had to really have like optimal time management skills. And I needed my family. I needed their help. I needed their support. I needed their encouragement sometimes. I needed to go to my mom's house on Sunday while she cooked dinner and just take an hour mental break, because it does get overwhelming. But I want to encourage you that you can do it. If you have to work and go to school at night, and you find time, you study on your lunch breaks, you study on the weekends. I don't think I slept for 4 years, but I'm here 15 years later. So it's possible. And there are sacrifices that you have to make, but I guarantee you that it's worth it. You are going to miss some parties. You're going to miss some family gatherings. You might miss a wedding or a birth, but 4 years or 3 years later, you will look up and it will all have been worth it. And I just want to encourage you that you can do whatever you decide. If you decide to work, if you decide not to work, if you decide to have a family, you can do all those things and still be successful in law school and in the profession as an attorney. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sims. I think it's so important that you're here with us today. And I believe you're with the Public Defender's Office. Am I correct, Samantha? Ms. Mims?
Yes.
Good, good, good. So thank you so much for being here with us, and definitely we'll loop you in to answer some of the questions with us. And I just want to know if anyone has any other questions. How much time do we have left, Samantha?
We'll be reconvening at 11:15, so we have 3 minutes.
Okay, I think we have another hand that was up. Did we? Do we have another question, or is there another question in the chat?
That was me. Hi, so my name's Tom, incoming first year evening student at Loyola, which is why I got this behind me. So I think Melinda actually answered my question for me, because I am the parent. I am the parent coming back to law school, working full-time, father of 3. And I chose this lobby first because I was more concerned about, keeping familial connections and how do you balance being a parent and taking care of your kids. I mean, you guys might have seen me earlier. I was feeding oatmeal to my kid over my shoulder. So it's like, how do you balance that? How do you make that work? Any recommendations?
I'll jump in, Thomas, and kudos to you. That's amazing that you're doing that, and to your family, because I know it's a sacrifice shared by the entire family. My biggest piece of advice is just to the degree possible, schedule your free time, right? Get a good schedule going, and just like you schedule, your class time, your classwork, your homework, if I'm going to carve out this time, Sunday morning, from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., I'm with the family. We're going to breakfast, we're doing a hike, we're going swimming, whatever. You have that to look forward to the entire week. You can tell your kids, you can tell your family, hey, Sunday, I'm all yours. We're going to have a great day. And that way you don't feel like you're cutting time during the week to be with family. Everybody has that to look forward to, and you recharge as well, because it is hard. You have family, you want to give that 100%, understandably, and then you have your program. So I think scheduling it is great, gives you something to look forward to, gives the family something to look forward to, and you do have to squeeze in that time when you have 3 kids. I understand that.
I just wanted to echo Thomas, kudos to you for this work, and I really appreciate our speakers for weighing in on those questions. Really super important, and we definitely want to be here. I think we're going to the other breakout room in 1 minute. Any last thoughts of wisdom for this panel?
I would just quickly add for Thomas to be sure to connect with other parents that are students and find community and support in there and shared resources, whether it's babysitters or group outings or whatever it is, but just find some strength and support and tips from other folks.
It's great. And with that, I think we'll see you in the other room. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay in this room if you want to ask more questions in this space. But we wanted to make sure you had time to go to the other breakout rooms. Thank you again. I know we're waiting for a few more people to join our breakout room, but my name is Capri, Maddox, Executive Director of the LA Civil Rights Department, and I'm delighted to be here with all of you today. We have the opportunity to talk about what parents just don't understand as it relates to law school. I think we have a few people still joining us, but I want to let you know that we do have Spanish language translators that are here with us today. So if anyone has a question they would like to ask in Spanish, please go right ahead. This breakout room is all about what families need to know about choosing law school. Many families don't understand the importance of a law school rankings or whether or not even they think their family members should attend law school, or the families aren't able to do the cost benefit analysis when choosing a law school. And I think it is important to know that this breakout room will go over a lot of these issues on how to best support a law student studying for the LSAC, going through law school, or studying for the bar exam. And please, please, please ask your questions. The time flies. I am honored to be joined here today by Tony Tolbert, Assistant Director of Admissions for UCLA Law School and teacher of street law. It's a clinic through which law students teach law-related topics in local high schools. We also have Nydia Dueñez, as well as, and she is the Dean of Students and Diversity at Southwestern Law School, who also directs the Youth Offender Parole Clinic at Southwestern, and Jennifer O'Connor, the Ambassador for the Law School Admissions Council, or LSAC, and she previously worked as an admissions counselor at Vermont Law School. And we also are joined by another guest, and we're delighted to have her primarily for the third panel, but Attorney Mims, please, 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 weigh in here. And we are delighted to know that we have representation from our local public defenders to help us lift this work and to explain what parents just don't understand. And so we'll let our panelists weigh in and give you some tidbits of advice of what parents don't seem to understand as it relates to the law school process. And we'll start off with Tony from UCLA. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Greetings, everybody. Glad to see you here, or at least see your names in boxes. This is a great opportunity just to get some information directly from the source. And that's probably one thing I start with is there's a lot of information out there in the world on Reddit and other kinds of sites. And, I'd encourage you to go directly to a law school, speak to people who are in law school admissions and in student services, in diversity and inclusion positions, to get a real straight sense of what it is that you're wanting to know. And I'm not saying stay out of those other sites, but just take that information with a grain of salt, because those are folks who are not working in law schools and may not have the exact right information. So with that said, just a couple of things to think about when your young adult, your student is deciding where to go to law school, there are a whole range of factors that might be important, and that's really incumbent upon you all to be clear about what it is that you're looking for in a legal education, what it is that they're looking for once they graduate from law school. So as Capri mentioned, rankings might be important, but they might not be so important. Location of a school might be very important or might not be important at all. Whether or not a school has a particular specialization, say environmental law or civil rights or something along those lines, might be the most important consideration in your student's decision. But I say all that just to suggest that it's really a holistic approach that I think makes most sense, and what weight you give to any particular factor or criterion is really, incumbent upon you and your young adult to think that through and be very, very thoughtful about that. So again, there's no one magic right way to make these determinations. Everyone has their own calculus and things that are most important to you. I'll mention this now, though, in terms of financing, the cost to apply to law school, to the extent that receiving fee waivers from schools would be helpful and would open you up to apply to maybe a broader number and broader range of schools. Schools can be very accommodating about that. We have a representative from Law School Admission Council who can tell you more about their process of receiving fee waivers for the LSAT. But those are some ways to at least make the cost a little less cost prohibitive, to open you up to apply to more schools across the country. And I'll stop there.
All right, thank you so much. Nydia, would you like to weigh in on what parents just don't understand? Thank you so much.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So just a couple of tips and things to consider in you or your loved one selecting a law school. I always think it's really important to visit the schools that you're considering to get a sense for if that school is a good fit for you. Walk the campus, talk to administrators, talk to students, and figure out, what kind of resources do they offer? Do you picture yourself there? I think that's really important because that's going to be your village for the next 3 or 4 years. So that's going to be the faculty, administrators getting behind you, presenting you opportunities, and the students there are going to be the types of students that are in your network. So I think that's really important. I also think, take inventory of what your priorities are. You have to weigh this on a scale, right? Is your goal big law or medium law? If that is the goal, then your ranks might play a higher priority in your decision of law schools. That also might mean that it might take you a little bit longer to go to law school because your LSAT scores or your resume may need a little bit more building so that you can get into a law school that's a top tier school. So that's a consideration to make. Also finances, right? How important is scholarship to you? How much lead time can you give yourself to ensure that you're a good candidate for scholarship? So, that might require more of an investment in LSAT prep, right? Or just taking advantage of the various programs that are offered to give you that preparation time. I know LSAC has some wonderful programs for LSAT preparation. Access Lex has some great programs. There's just some things you have to research so that you can give yourself that lead time to be the best candidate. We talked a little bit in our previous panel about choosing the right program based on your life, right? If you're a parent, if you need to work during law school, ensuring that the law school that you apply to has programs to support that so that you can be as successful as possible. And just a quick note to any of the panelists here that are first generation students, first gen families, first gen American families. This is going to be a journey for your loved one or for you. For first gen families, the first one to go to college, the first one to go to a graduate program is the star of the family, right? Speaking from my own experience, I was a lawyer from the day that I applied to law school. My family already thought I was a lawyer. And so with that comes a lot of pressure, also a lot of support, but it also is a lot of pressure because when I got to law school, I quickly realized I was not a unicorn. I wasn't as special as I thought, and everyone there was very smart, right? So it was coming into this experience and being, in a small pond, and everyone was a big fish in this pond, right? And so it was really trying to ensure that folks weren't outworking me, because everyone there had that natural intellect. Everyone was highly capable. So just supporting your loved one through that, knowing that this is a short time commitment, whether it's 3 years or 4 years, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And if your loved one can be successful, can do well in law school, can pass that bar, become an attorney, wow, what a accomplishment, right? And how much is that changing the trajectory of your family? Right now, there are folks, to say, my mom is a lawyer, my dad is a lawyer, my cousin is a lawyer, my auntie is a lawyer, right? That is just so wonderful and so important, but it is a big investment for the entire family. So just my 2 cents. So thank you, Capri.
Thank you so much, Nydia. And just, changing the trajectory of your family is something that is super important. And as I've learned when I actually was in law school, someone reminded me, if you act like a lawyer while you're in law school, you'll be in law school when you should be a lawyer. And I definitely want to be sure that we measure and temper family expectations. I actually went and visited a number of my family members on the East Coast and in other places the summer before I attended law school, to let them know that I'd be going underground for 3 years, and for someone to be a 4-year period. But you will have breaks during the holiday breaks, and when your semester ends. I think it's important to just know that measuring the expectations is something that I appreciate you bringing. I would like to hear from Jennifer in a second, but and then after that, I'd like to know if Attorney Melinda Sims would like to add points too. She's with the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office, and she's the president of the Black Public Defenders Association, and she has over 25 years of experience in the criminal justice system. So Jennifer, your thoughts of things you'd like to share with parents, and then we want to quickly get through this so we can do some Q&A.
Absolutely. Thank you, Capri. Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you all today. I'm going to just highlight some three important points that I think are really paramount throughout this journey and supporting your child through this really amazing endeavor. So the first is that this is very much obviously a business decision and an academic decision to go to law school, but also very much a personal decision, because you're going to have to live in the place for 3 years. And so you want to make sure that you're a good fit for the community and want to make sure that you're comfortable not only with the professors and deans and your constituents in the law school atmosphere, but also to the surrounding community, whatever that may look like, so that you can obviously thrive throughout your 3 years while you're studying. Secondly, this is an expensive endeavor. I don't think that needs to be highlighted. Everyone knows that. However, both professionally and personally, I live by the positive reframe. And so the positive reframe for that will be, it's an investment in you. This is something that no one will be able to take away from you. And it's not only an investment that's going to benefit the individual, but also to their family and their community, and then society as well. So just taking that into consideration and making sure that you're doing a cost benefit analysis that works best for you and your particular goals. It's going to be a very unique experience for everyone. So not comparing yourself is going to be really essential, whether that be in the classroom or making offer comparisons, things like that. Don't compare yourself, don't count, just be you and follow what's best for you. An offer might seem attractive, but there's, you have to take into consideration the strings that might be attached, whether there's conditional things attached to it as well. And that being said, LSAC has a really excellent fee waiver program to help students navigate the legal enrollment journey. And we just recently modified it to be a 2-tier system. Our tier 1 system is a savings of over $1,000. and tier 2 is a savings over $600. So all with resources, including the LSAT exam, your CAS credential assembly service registration, law school reports, resources for preparing for the LSAT. So I highly recommend checking those out at lsac.org. There's free resources on Khan Academy that we offer. And then we also just recently developed Law Hub, which is the authentic interface in which the LSAT is given on, but also too, we're building it out to be an educational platform for candidates, for people in law school, and then also to people in the profession. So check those out as well. Those are really helpful. We also have forums that students can attend for free, where you can interact with admissions professionals and ask them questions. And then lastly, I think the biggest thing is being a supportive cheerleader for your child. Every class that I took that were about an hour and 15 minutes took me about 3 hours to prepare. That's the suggested. That could be longer or shorter, but just taking that time commitment into consideration and being supportive of that, being an emotional support. If your child comes to you overwhelmed, dismissing them and saying, you know, you can do it, you're the smartest person I know, is obviously, you know, helpful, but really listening to them and helping them work through methodically will really be essential. Remembering that this is their path, but also to being supportive and cognizant of the sacrifices that they're making for this investment. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if, I know Melinda was scheduled to join us at the next panel, but I do see her here. I don't know if she would like to weigh in on what parents don't understand. If not, we will go into our question and answer period now, and I'll yield the floor to Samantha Swartz. And I'm super grateful for Samantha because Samantha is going to law school and she's recently accepted into Harvard Law. She's one of ours, and she has been a policy fellow with us at the LA Civil Rights Department, and we couldn't be prouder of her. And so Samantha, I yield the floor for you to lead the question and answer period. I don't know if we have any questions now. I actually have one question that I'd like to ask, but I'll wait to see if we have other folks that are interested in asking questions right now. Samantha, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Capri. I see Melinda has unmuted, so Attorney Melinda Sims, if you would want to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. This is Melinda Sims. I apologize for my lack of video right now, but it'll be back for the next session. I just wanted to add, for me in choosing law school, I wanted to know who wanted me. So when I was trying to decide what school I wanted to know which school was going to offer the most resources for my personal situation. I worked full time. I was also a single mother. So I needed to go to an institution that would, essentially cater to that or offer resources or be supportive of that. So I wanted to know which school was going to give me the most money and which school was going to give me the most resources, essentially which school wanted me the most in my choice of where to go. So that played heavily into my my selection process.
It's great. Thank you for that. Samantha, do we have any questions in the chat, or does anyone have their hands raised? If not, I have a question for Jennifer.
We don't have anything in the chat and no one has their hand raised yet,
All
but
right.
feel free to add in the chat, everybody. But until then, we can do your question, Capri.
Right. So Jennifer, can you, and any panelist can weigh in, but I really have a question about ABA law schools versus non-ABA law schools. And ABA stands for American Bar Association Law School. And I think, when we talk about the rankings, especially when you're first generation, and so many families even have other career options they want the family members to engage in. My father, for example, wanted me to go into real estate. He said, why are you going to go to law school, spend all that money? You could be selling real estate and making money like in a month. Like, this is foolish. Until my second year in law school, this was the thing. And so my dad's now very, very proud. But I said all that to say family members don't even know why you're doing this or what you're doing, let alone what kind of law school you should attend. So if you could break down the difference between ABA, non-ABA law schools, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ABA law schools, those, if you would like to take the bar exam after you graduate, that will be essential for you to go to a school that is recognized by the ABA. So I think that's the number one difference between the accredited and not accredited schools. So just take into consideration your goals after law school and what that might be, and then the options and doors that open from each institution. That's number one. I think also too, with respect to rankings, just be sure that you're doing your research for the programs and the institution, and again, the community that's within, if that's going to be a good fit. For instance, if you think you would like to go into big law after you graduate, then, you know, a school with a top rank is probably going to be very important to those potential employers. So thinking about that, and then just cultivating a plan, working through preparing for the LSAT and itemizing all of your other application items to bolster and promote that objective as well. And then I guess the last thing is you really need to know what kind of program that you want to embark on as well. And that could be different for every school. There could be a school that's, you know, not in that top tier that has an excellent criminal justice program. And then maybe that's the decision that you should make based on your personal goals. And I know Nydia unmuted, so I want her to be able to step in and answer as well.
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer. I just want to piggyback on what Jennifer mentioned and state, like for some, a California accredited law school might be a good option. And it's something to definitely think about. And so if you're someone who's considering, excuse me, maybe opening up your own practice, going into a particular area of law, California accredited might work fine. If you think you might want to switch, sorry, let me get some water. I'll have to come back, sorry.
And I'd like to weigh in here too. The fact that we have California accredited law schools versus ABA accredited law schools, meaning if you go to California accredited law school, that means you can only take the bar exam in California, and you can only ever practice law in California. And I know we have people from all over the world on this call. So whatever state you go to law school in, if the law school is only accredited in the state and is a non-ABA law school, you can only take the bar exam in that state, and you can only practice law ever in that state. And that's limiting. And the other thing is there's some entities that do not hire folks that aren't from ABA accredited law school. So if you have an idea of where you want to work or what you want to do, definitely be mindful of the difference between an ABA and non-ABA law school. If you go to ABA accredited law school, you can take the bar anywhere else. So if you decide you want to move to Hawaii, you can take the Hawaii bar and move there and practice law with the law degree that you received 30 years ago. So I just think that that's one of the things that is important, of course, with employers taking on the rankings. Nydia, do you have anything else?
You got it, Capri. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was exactly what I wanted to highlight.
All right. And so do we have any other questions? And when if we don't, I can kind of get you guys into my mindset about one of the reasons that we wanted to have this session. And Samantha, you can tell us how much time we have. And I think we'll see if Tony has anything he'd like to add as well. Samantha, how are we doing on time? Oh, you're muted, dear.
We're doing great. We have about 15 minutes until it closes, so we'll probably get like a 5-minute warning in 10 minutes.
Okay, good. Tony, is there anything you'd like to add on ABA law schools or rankings, et cetera, that you'd like to share?
Not necessarily on that. I would like to mention one thing, and for people that are interested in getting a sense of what law school might look like before they actually go to law school, there are several pipeline programs around locally and across the country And I can drop some of this information in the chat, which would just be a sample. There's a program called LEAP, which, is working with students, particularly students from underrepresented backgrounds, helping them, understand what law school looks like, putting them through their paces before they actually apply, help them through the application process. We have a program at UCLA called the Law Fellows Program. There's a national program called SEO, and I'll drop some of this information in the chat, but that's a good way for folks who have an idea that they want to go to law school, but may not be sure kind of what that looks like and what the pathway may be, and so that you can get some support along the way and not have to do it all on your own. This is for students and for parents to be aware of as well.
All right, thank you so much. And I think there's a question in the chat for you, Tony, asking you what advice do you have for someone that's interested in UCLA law?
Ashlyn, thank you for that. I'll drop my contact information in the chat, and please feel free to email me and we can set up a time to talk about that.
Really appreciate you being so accessible. And that's what this is all about. The impetus for parents don't understand as a first generationer, again, the time limits, other people in your family deciding like, let's try to find something that's easier and faster for you to do because we want to get you out there and want to have you making money and making a difference even faster. But to really have the impact was something that law school, gave the opportunity to do. And I know we have just a few moments left in this session, but the thing that really was problematic for me as well is the cost. And there were some law schools that were, 1/4 or 1/3 the cost of the law school that I ultimately attended, Pepperdine School of Law, my beloved alma mater, that is helping our department with hundreds of thousands of dollars in services to help us lift this work in the civil rights department here in the city of Los Angeles. And we're super grateful for Mary Garcetti appointing me to this role, but to know that we have so many partners to help us lift this work. Pepperdine School of Laws helped me, but I just want to know, when you're thinking about maybe a law school that might cost under $50,000 or one that may cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, how do you make that cost benefit analysis? And I think I'd like to see if we can get Nydia or Miss Sims to weigh in here in that space. How about that? Nydia, you want to start? Nydia or Miss Sims?
Sure. So just to recap, Capri, your question is the cost analysis on just weighing in on any law school, like making that decision. Yeah, absolutely. I think you just kind of have to make your list of priorities. I think that's super important because if you don't have in mind what your end goal is, right? Because sometimes you don't know what you need to get there, but you need to know how to reverse engineer it, right? So I want to be here. I want to be in this type of work. And then you can really think about what factors need to be in place for you to select the right school. And I think we've covered a lot of ground in this meeting, from selecting an ABA accredited school, a state accredited school, from financial aid, scholarship, rankings, and the value that those may or may not have for you. Looking into loan forgiveness programs, right? If you go into a particular profession, are there loan forgiveness programs available to you? And also just tapping into what do you need to be successful, right? Are you the kind of person that really needs like a lot of community, a lot of programming, things like that? You need to select a school that aligns with that, right? Because there might be a top ranked school that you get into, but you may feel on an island at that school. And so you need to think about what you need to be successful so that you can pick the right school. And I think Tony mentioned like some really great preview kind of to law programs that can start to give you an idea about the right fit for you.
All right, looks like, thank you so much for that answer. It looks like we're at the end of our time here. I know that Nydia, you will be dropping off the call with us, I think, and for the next session, and we'll be joined by Ms. Sims. So if you want to hear an answer from her, definitely rejoin this session. And I'm just super grateful for this panelist and for this opportunity, for the parents and family members that are on the call. Thank you for supporting and lifting these law students. Okay, we're going to leave our breakout room, and I'll see you over in the main room in just a moment. Thank you so much. Keep the faith, keep the fight. Bye now. Thank you. Hello, everyone. We are back in the Parents Just Don't Understand room, and we're delighted to be joined by esteemed panelists, and we definitely will go through the introductions quickly. I want all of you to know that we have Spanish language translators that are here with us today. So if anyone has a question they'd like to ask in Spanish, please go right ahead. This breakout room is all about what families need to know about choosing a law school. Many families don't understand the importance of a law school rankings or are able to do a cost-benefit analysis when choosing the right law school. This breakout room will go over these issues and tell us all how to best support a student studying for the LSAT, going through law school, or studying for the bar exam. And please, please, please ask your questions. I'm honored to be joined here by Tony Tolbert, the Assistant Director of Admissions for UCLA School of Law, and he is the teacher of street law. It's a clinic in which law schools teach law-related topics to local high school students. And we have Jennifer O'Connor, who is ambassador for the Law School Admissions Council, also known as LSAC, she also previously worked as an admissions counselor at Vermont Law School. And finally, we have Melinda Sims. She is a Los Angeles public defender and president of the Black Public Defenders Association with over 25 years of experience in the justice system. I'm very, very grateful. Is it 25 years or 15 years? Am I aging you? But I'm very, very grateful for your leadership. So I'm going to start and ask, a question here, and I'm going to turn it over to the speakers in just a moment. By the way, I'd like to again thank Samantha Swartz for her leadership. And she'll be helping us with some of the questions. So please put your questions in the chat or raise your hand when we have time for Q&A. So I'd like to just turn it over quickly to our speakers to present on the topic of what parents may need to know, or family members may need to know as they support their spouse, brother, sister, or son or daughter. Or any significant others in any way. I really want to start off with Tony. Do you think you can start off and tell us what you think parents don't understand?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's good seeing folks here and taking part in this discussion. I think something that maybe parents don't understand about the law school journey, application process, and going to law school is that it's a slightly different animal than high school and college. Your students are bright and brilliant and talented and all that, which will help them in law school. But law school, requires more. It's a very demanding, very rigorous, very time-consuming endeavor. And so I encourage parents to be supportive, but also give some space to their young people to let them kind of figure out their path. Being encouraging, but also understanding. I received my first semester, grades in law school were the worst in my entire academic career. Thankfully it didn't crush my spirit or my ego, but it definitely humbled me. And so it was nice to know that, my parents were supportive and, and encouraging, and it's kind of kept me grounded. And so just, being there for your student would be helpful. And as far as the decision of where to attend law school, it's a very holistic one, right? And there's no one right way to do it, but you and your young person want to sit down and try to figure out what are the criteria that are most important to you. How do you weigh each of them separately and collectively, and then figure out, once your student has their options, which option matches up the best, and whether financial aid is most important, or ranking, or location, or school specializations. I'll suggest that taking all that into consideration and coming up with a very holistic decision will be the best way to move forward.
Thank you so much for that answer, Tony. I'd like to see if Jennifer has anything she'd like to add here.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you. I'm just going to highlight some 3 important points that are really, really helpful throughout this road. So the first being that this is very much, in addition to being a business and academic decision to go to law school, very much a personal decision. So as Tony said, that's going to be unique to the situation and what you value. And you want to make sure that you're a good fit for the community, because you're going to have to live there for 3 years. So make sure you align with the mission and community, not only within the law school, but also the surrounding area as well. You want to make sure that you're comfortable so that you thrive throughout your degree. Secondly, it's an expensive endeavor, and both personally and professionally, I'm always all about the positive reframe, right? So for that instance, it's an investment in you, and it's something that no one will be able to take away from you. And it's an investment that's not only going to benefit you, the individual, but the family and the community and the surrounding society. So just really keeping that in mind throughout all the challenges and obstacles is really optimal. Doing a cost benefit analysis, again, is really helpful, and not comparing yourself to anyone else. And for expense assistance, LSAC has a fee waiver program. We just developed a 2-tier benefit system. So applying for those resources to help you navigate the application process are really, really helpful. And in addition, we have Khan Academy, that's free LSAT preparation for students, and also to Law Hub as well. That's not only an LSAT prep resource, but also to an educational resource that have webinars that are free to candidates to help them navigate the journey and get the information that they need to make sure that they're making a methodical decision based on them. And then lastly, being a supportive cheerleader. So I just always like to highlight, when I was in law school, for every hour and 15-minute class that I attended, it took about 3 hours or sometimes more to prepare for that one class. So just being cognizant of that, and just recognizing that the emotional and also time commitment that the person attending school is under, being an emotional support, and not only saying you can do it and be dismissive, but also to really just listening and helping them navigate, and feeling for them during the challenging but rewarding time.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. And Melinda, you're up next.
Thank you, Capri. I think I'll start from the previous session in what we were talking about regarding choosing a law school and the financial cost analysis. And the recommendation was to start at the end and then work your way back. For me, I knew I wanted to be a public defender. And in the public defender's office, I can tell you that there are people who went to Harvard, people who went to UCLA, people who went to a lot of top tier law schools. I went to Western State University College of Law in Orange County. It's not a top tier law school. I make the same amount of money that the people who went to the top tier law school makes. I just have less student loans. Actually, I have 0 student loans at this point, because another thing you should take into consideration is public service loan forgiveness. I just got a 0 balance on all my student loans. And this didn't exist, actually. I didn't know of it when I was choosing a law school, but I knew what I wanted to do in the end. And I knew that in order for the office that I wanted to go into, they weren't necessarily looking for which law school you went to. There will be firms who only look at what law school you went to and what percentage. They really were looking for people who could do the work. It's a different kind of work. It's not for everybody. So no matter what school you went to, it was a different level to decide who they were going to select for a position in the firm. So I would say you definitely want to consider what you want to do when you get out of law school. The financial aspect, I will admit, it's scary. For me, I didn't have a lot of debt. It was always preached, don't get a credit card while you're in school. Don't rack up debt. You want to keep your credit good. So the idea of taking on this amount of financial responsibility, especially at a young age or at an old age, it was very intimidating for me. But what I can tell you is that it's the best choice I ever made. I would do it all over again. I love shoes. If I'm going to be in debt, it's not going to be over my shoes. It's going to be over my education. It's an investment in myself, and it's a long-term investment. It's not a temporary investment. You know, my shoes are going to get old at some point. I'm going to throw them out. Your education, I think Capri said, or one of the panelists said, nobody can take that from you. It's something that you'll have for the rest of your life. So I definitely say when choosing, it's something you want to take into consideration, but it shouldn't prevent you from taking the next step.
Very good. And I'm going to turn over the floor to Samantha to see if we have any questions that are in the chat. I think someone said, please consider having this event more frequently, more than once a year. You should know this is the first annual Law Day. This idea has been in my head, and I've been trying to get it happening since 2019, and then the pandemic slowed things down. And when we were able to finally meet in person, we decided that it actually was best to, you know, have this event online to deal with the inequities of transportation challenges for some folks. And so we wound up doing it online anyway, but we are, you know, delighted to have this program. And if there's a need for us to do this more than once a year, we will do it more than once a year, because we are the inequity disruptors here at the LA Civil Rights Department. And this is super important for us on our upward mobility programming to get people into the middle class and beyond, and to create a new bench of difference makers in this space, like some of the panelists that you've seen earlier today and those that are with us now. So I think there's a question. Any advice when sending in a law application from an admissions perspective? And I'll yield the floor over to you, Samantha. You may have another queue of questions, but let's do this. And I think we might want to start with Tony on this, and Jennifer, and I don't know if Melinda, you'd like to add anything as well, but definitely Tony and Jennifer.
Yeah, I was actually just in the process of typing a response to Zamora, saying that's a tricky question to answer in a short soundbite. So let me drop my contact information in the chat. That's actually going to be more helpful. And this goes for anybody who wants to follow up with a specific question, because that would take me probably 15 minutes to give you a really solid answer. So, and I don't want to give you a half answer.
Okay, all right. Jennifer, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, and I'll definitely put my email address in there as well if and there's further questions, but just probably a very high level to synthesize that question would just be yourself throughout all aspects of your application. Tell your story and tell the reader why you want to go to law school. I think that's number one. Be authentic and real, but also to map the journey too. It takes time to put together a very thoughtful application, so don't rush it, and just look at the map and cultivate a plan moving forward with respect to preparing adequately for the LSAT. That's an exam that you want to just try to take one time. You want to make sure you're ready the first time to do it, not taking it cold. And the suggested study could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So again, using those free resources on lsac.org too will be helpful for that as well. And I'll drop again 2 resources that we have that have an admissions checklist and a brochure that kind of gives you a guiding light through that process as well.
And I'll just add, I'll say to Ms. Herrera, you're already doing more than I ever did by taking advantage of the resources that are available and by asking this question. I had never seen a law school application. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I filled it out, I turned it in. I had no idea what I was doing. So you're already on the right path by using resources and asking questions and being in a much better position to submit a great application.
And I'd like to just weigh in on this question, and then and I thank all of our panelists for their answers as well. But another thing is, when you are writing an application, and some I actually was on the law school, on the board for my law school, Pepperdine School of Law at one time. And so I'm very familiar with the process, and of course, I'm being a mentor to folks that have been going through the law school process. I'll say this, it'd be great to tell the law school what you can do for them. And you think, what? I'm just trying to get in and hopefully get out and pass the bar and, have a career. But, and this is something I kind of did by accident because I was going back to law school. Law was my second career. I pretty much told them, you guys give me a law degree, I already have a job. I already have this figured out. And I really didn't. But, being that I worked, I knew that I had the possibility of, and I worked in public service before law school. I thought maybe I had the ability to, go back into some spaces. I was working for housing departments in local government before I went to law school. So I figured worst case scenario, I'll, do something in that space. And I think it is important to also let them know that you're someone that would be committed to be a loyal alum as well. And that is something that's important for you because like I said earlier, I went to the law school dinner at my beloved alma mater, Cal State LA last night. And I wish I had told them when they were thinking about admitting me that I'm going to come back and I'm going to be involved. And, if you need me to be the chairperson of this or that, I will be there for you. And I think if you are that person, don't inflate things, but if you are that person, let them know that. Because law schools, what they need and what they like, rankings. And by being employable and by being an active alum, that is something that helps their law school ranking. So if that is the lane that you can roll in, definitely say that in application process. And Samantha, I'll turn it over to you because I think we have another question that's in the chat. Do you see anything?
I do not see anything in the chat, but thank you for that answer, Capri. I think that advice is definitely spot on, showing your focus and how you're going to use the tool of a law school degree. But in the meantime, folks in the room, please think of the other questions you would like to have answered. You can drop anything in the chat or send things directly to me if that's more comfortable for you, or feel free to raise your hand and leave it up until your question is answered. In the meantime, I have a question I can ask for our panelists. For students who do not have legal practitioners, lawyers in their lives, how do you recommend students discover what kind of legal career paths they might be interested in pursuing, since that's such a helpful kind of lens for students to narrow their application process? Anyone can jump in and start.
Tony, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, it's a good question. So I would say be sure to explore some of these pre-law school pipeline programs. And I'm losing track. Did I drop it in this chat or was that last chat? That was last chat? All right, so I'll when I get a chance, I'll drop in some links to various schools and organizations offer a chance for pre-law school students to check out law school, what it looks like, to get a sense of the different career paths. UCLA, we have a law fellows program that brings a cohort of students, underrepresented students to UCLA once a month for a Saturday academy where you're meeting with practicing lawyers from different backgrounds. You get a sense of what they do in a day in and day out basis just to make it be very real and tangible. But there are several. LSAC has some plus programs, pre-law undergraduate studies programs. There's a program called LEAP. So there's a number of them. And these are great ways, low cost, no cost ways to get a sense of what law school might look like. And to Melinda's point a minute ago, the fact that all of you are here today already speaks to your specialness and your ambition, your level of investment and engagement in this process. And you want to continue that because that will pay off. My first time in a law school class was my first day of law school. I figured it out ultimately, but it would have been nice if I had had a better idea of exactly what I was getting into. So all of you are already kind of ahead of the game. So keep seeking resources, keep reaching out, keep participating in programs like this.
Right. And Thank you so much, Tony. And I definitely echo your points that, the students are way ahead of the curve here when you think about just what a lot of us knew when we were applying to law school. And Samantha, you're always welcome to weigh in because you just applied to law school. I mean, I think you're probably the person that has recently filled out a law school application, but I do want to shout out that we have someone that is on the line here. Alyssa, I don't know if it's okay to share your information, but I know that you currently attend Berkeley Law and that you have offered to share contact information for folks that may need help in this space as it relates to navigating. And you're a 1L, I believe. And by the way, we don't want to overburden you because that's a busy year for you to be ending in just maybe less than a month. But I think it is important to know if you would like to share your information, your contact information, you can do so in the chat. Any other questions, Samantha?
Did we want to have Attorney Sims answer the last question as well? Anything to add?
Yes.
I would just add in deciding what type of law you want to practice to think about what you feel strongly about. For me, I felt strongly about defense. I felt strongly about helping the community. I felt strongly about fighting the police. So those things led me into a career of criminal defense. If you are shy, if you don't, and also what you're good at. So if you're good at arguing, or if you're good at writing, or if you're good at, reading through contracts, think about those two things because you're going to be doing this job for a very long time. So it should be something that you feel passionately about, that keeps you going when days are hard or rough. You should actually enjoy what you're doing. Sometimes people choose a direction or profession or field to go into, and it's not until they get into it that they realize that that's not what they want to do. So kind of self-evaluate. Do I like being up in front of 12 jurors who are going to look at me crazy for the most of the trial? Do I mind, engaging in this type of discourse with people, or would I rather be in an office behind a desk? Do I get joy out of research? So you kind of have to look inwardly in figuring out what you want to do, I think, as far as what direction to go in the field.
Right. Thank you so much for that answer. And I do think we have a question in the chat. Samantha, do you want to, I think it's about if we know exactly what area of law we want to go into practice, but there's no specific concentration in this area of law, how can we find the right person at a particular law school to discuss our specific need for wanting to attend law school? I don't know who asked, I don't know who'd like to take that question, but definitely what I think it is, you're going to get a general law degree, and which is a good thing because I've changed careers. I've changed, my practice areas many times since becoming an attorney, as many of our panelists. But I think it's important to know that you may not have anyone at the law school that could answer your question, but there may be people that are working in that field that could help you. But I definitely want to yield the floor to our panelists.
Yes, I see Mr. Tolbert has unmuted, and then we can go to Jennifer after.
Yeah, feel free to call me Tony, please. I'm old, but I'm not that old.
You got it.
Yeah. So I guess I would just say, even if a school doesn't have a specialization that matches what your interest is, there may be individual professors or administrators working in that area or specializing in that area. So I would contact the admissions office and just let them know that I'm interested in family law, for example. Could you please direct me to any faculty, there at your school who have a background or a specialization in that area. And then you can do some, specific research on that particular faculty member and reach out to her or him. And I imagine most people would respond. So there are specializations, but beyond that, there are people at each law school who might actually have a background in that area, even if there's not a concentration around that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I also, this actually was something that happened to me when I went to law school as well. I think you can look at the different courses, and if there's no particular specialization, kind of see the course and then cultivate your curriculum based on your interests. That's a really great way to stand out. Also to researching internships that also reflect your passions and interests as well. And then there's a lot of clinic opportunities on campuses as well. So I remember when I was at the legal aid clinic, I expressed an interest in asylum, and then I was put on those types of cases. So again, there's ways to stand out, not narrowing yourself into a specific law specialization.
Thank you both for that input. And one thing I'll add as a recent applicant is that the written portion of your application, your personal statement, is usually completely open-ended, a description of why you are applying for this program. And so you have the floor to kind of explain how this interest came to be, demonstrate where you got the experience that led you to this path. And so you can kind of carve out for the admissions team that's going to read your application exactly what you envision your path would be, in as much specificity as you want within those 2 pages. So you have all of that kind of freedom and leeway to get specific in that sense. Once again, if anyone has any questions that they want to ask, feel free to raise your hand or drop anything in the chat. I'll uplift that Alyssa put her contact information and is available to talk about the experience of being in a second year of a law program. I'll ask another question just to keep the ball rolling. So I know that Attorney Sims is also president of the Black Public Defenders Association. So I do want to open our conversation to how professional associations and affinity associations can kind of support students before, during, after their law school career.
Thank you for that. So at the Black Public Defenders Association, we are very motivated to help law students. We actually start with high school, and we do law days, and we do career days, because we want the community to understand that this is an option. This is a professional option. We also are very invested in diversity. And a lot of times, if you don't see it, you don't know it exists. So we make sure that we put a face to this particular legal profession. I will say we also offer scholarships, and I think most of the affinity organizations I know offer scholarships because we want to invest in our community. We actually really want to help more people join this profession. I know that the Black Public Defenders Association offers scholarships to high school students entering college. We also offer scholarships to law students matriculating through law school. I know that the Black Prosecutors Association offers a scholarship. I know that the Black Women Lawyers Association offers a scholarship, and Langston Bar Association offers a scholarship. So I said that to say that there is money, there are resources. A lot of the organizations do free bar prep and offer those types of resources. It really is a wonderful community to belong to, and we really are invested in helping those who want to join this community to be as successful as they possibly can. To find those resources, it could probably be a simple Google search. I think probably almost every organization will list those resources and make them available to you.
Thank you, Attorney Sims. And Tony, would you want to add anything about how student organizations and similar resources like that can kind of support students from the UCLA side?
Absolutely. Thanks, Samantha. So yeah, we have over 60 student organizations at UCLA Law. Many of them are centered around a particular identity. So our Black Law Student Association, our Latinx Law Student. Some are centered around a subject matter, so entertainment law or fashion and beauty law. So great ways to engage, great ways to build community, to interact with fellow students, but also ways to learn what it means to be a lawyer, at least to get a sense. Many of our student organizations are actually out in the community, working on real life issues, helping people resolve problems, doing client intakes, doing client research. And you can do these beginning your very first semester of law school under the supervision of practicing lawyers. So it's just a really good way to connect while you're in law school to what you want to do and to begin to get some experience of helping people solve their problems.
Awesome, thank you. And Alyssa, I know you're not one of our panelists, so feel free to pass if you don't want to be put on the spot, but If you want to speak to any experience with how these organizations have kind of helped you in your first 2 years of law school, with kind of getting your feet on the ground, getting exposure to different opportunities, whether or not those resources have been helpful for that purpose.
And before she answers, I just wanted to say quickly that we do have Spanish interpreters on the line. So please feel free to ask your questions as well. Go ahead, Lisa. Thank you so much.
I wasn't prepared to speak, but I am in La Alianza at school, and I think it was a really good community building. I did my 1L and it was completely online, so it was like a very weird space. I was still living in LA, where like a lot of people were here, but what really gave me a sense of community and like feeling like I belonged, because it's scary, like your first year going in, was Alianza. We recently changed the name from Gasa, but yeah, I would really highly encourage reaching out to any groups that you feel like you identify with, because for me, it was like a sense of family and community. And I cared so much about it that I'm actually on the board now. And that always looks good for your second year to be on the board when you're applying for jobs and stuff. I don't know if does that work?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing on the spot. Again, if anyone has specific questions that they want to ask, please feel free to jump in. Same with you, Capri. If any questions come to mind, you can jump in as well. Another question.
Do you see a question in the chat? If not, I just wanted to acknowledge Sylvia Garrett, who is with us. Sylvia was the very first volunteer with the Civil Rights Department, and she's a student at University of Penn. I think maybe in her third year now. So we're looking for you to go to law school soon, and we're delighted that you are still with us. Again, we do have translation services that are available. And, thinking about a number of things that, parents just don't understand. There are some parents that don't want family members to move to a different jurisdiction. And, particularly you're thinking about, I don't want my daughter or my young son to move to a different state, but that might be the law school where they might be the best supported. And I just would like to ask our panelists to, kind of like talk about, to stay in California or the benefits of going to a law school in another jurisdiction. It might be one that's even more prestigious than schools that are even in California. So I definitely would like, a couple of our panelists to jump in that space to answer that question.
I'm happy to jump in on that. So I'm from Southern California. I went to UC Santa Barbara for undergraduate school. And I went to the East Coast for law school. And my parents, they didn't seem too upset about it, frankly. I think they were like, all right, do your thing. But I will say that for me, part of the educational value of being on the East Coast was just being in a different part of the world, part of the country I'd never spent time in. Dealing with snow, dealing with, taking the subway, public transportation, dealing with just a different vibe, a different culture, a different climate, physically and otherwise, was for me a part of the educational experience that I don't think I would have received if I had stayed in California. And so, I think, maybe just to keep an open mind. And again, I encourage folks to apply to a broad number and broad range of schools. You collect options and then take it from there. And if getting fee waivers, application fee waivers helps make that possible. Don't be shy about asking schools what their fee waiver process is. So then at the end of the process, you've got a number of options that you can then compare and contrast and figure out what you want to do. But at least for me, going to law school on the East Coast was actually a very valuable part of the experience.
Yeah, I'd love to chime in too. Similar to Tony, I'm originally from the East Coast. I'm a New Yorker, and I went to law school in Vermont. And a lot of my family members, when I made that decision, were upset that I wanted to leave them. But I knew for me that law school was going to be the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. And to be able to accomplish it successfully, I needed to remove myself from family and friends for the allotted time and create a new experience and a new community and do something for me. So sometimes that's scary, not to have your family and friends by your side during a really challenging endeavor. But for me, it was probably the best thing that I ever could do, and made those relationships that much stronger when I returned to them post law school.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for those answers. And one thing I'll say, if you do have an idea of where you want to live after law school, be sure to spend your summers and your breaks working in those places, just so that you have someone who is local that can give you a strong letter of recommendation or make a phone call for you in the interview when you're interviewing for a position. The other thing is that you also will have a network in the place where you are going to reside when you're thinking about making moves in your career later on. It's like, well, you were intern here with us, 10 years ago, and you can still call on those people. And of course, you would conduct yourself as if you would want to contact them in the years to come. So just keep that in mind if you do go to law school in a different state or different jurisdiction of where you're actually planning to practice. Is there anyone else that wants to weigh in on that question, or do we have any other questions, Samantha?
No other questions yet, so we can continue just asking away our own.
Okay. And the other thing is when we're thinking about parents and family members, even making a decision, if you do stay in your jurisdiction, people need to make a decision of, am I still going to live at home, or how am I going to handle, childcare issues, and, where my network is to help me. And I think that's, those are questions that you need to ask yourself as well. Some of you may watch the show Grownish, for example, and there was someone that actually has a child that was accepted to a law school on the East Coast. And you may know the show is set in California. And so, it was a happy ending. There's no spoiler alert here, but the father of the child and the child are now going to move to the East Coast, so the mother could actually attend law school. And so there are family decisions that need to be made in all these spaces. And even if you stay local, even figuring out, because I think Jennifer said, she wanted to get removed from her family, but what if you really wanted to go to USC and your family's living in South Los Angeles? You may not have to move, but you may make a decision to relocate. And I just wanted to know if anyone wanted to speak on that, or even juggling childcare as being a law student. Any of our panelists can jump in. I was thinking of you, Attorney Sims.
I can jump in regarding that. As when I went to law school, I worked full time, and Capri had talked about the 25 years versus the 15 years. I've been with the Los Angeles County for 25 years. I actually started out of college at the traffic window. So I processed traffic tickets. 25 years later, after working full time, I became a judicial assistant. So I was in the courtroom for 7 years. And then I went to school at night. And I've been an attorney in the public defender's office for another 15 years. So I think I just dated myself, not you, but my daughter was, I think she was in elementary school when I went to law school. We'll just say it, and we've talked a lot to any family members. I am ever so grateful for my family and my community who stepped in at every hand to do the things that I couldn't do, because there are some things that you won't be able to do. I couldn't go to every PTA meeting. I'm so glad that they're virtual now. because it's much easier to get there. But when I was in law school, I couldn't get off work and get to the PTA meeting, or I couldn't be there in the morning. And sometimes my mom went, or sometimes, you know, another family member stepped in. It really was not just me going to law school. It was my entire family who were invested in me becoming a success. So I will say that as much space as we may need from them, we also depend on them a lot for support and for help, especially if you have a child or children, or if you're married and you have a husband. You definitely want to take advantage of those resources, and they will be happy to help. I mean, at the end of the day, it's 3 years, it's 4 years, and it's so worth it at the end of the journey. So I just encourage you to definitely hold on to your support system. They will help you. I mean, a lot of times I'm a person who doesn't like to ask for help, but trust me and believe that they are willing to do whatever needs to be done to get you through this process.
Right. And thank you so much for even sharing the component of, you know, going to law school at night, part-time. That's another decision that folks make. And that was a decision that I actually was faced with, being a housing analyst. And it's like, it's so hard to get these jobs. You really want to quit and go to law school full time. But, you know, I actually did a fundraiser, and I still like fundraising. And I started the Capri Law Fund, and you know, figured out the financial aid package, and I was able to make it work. I became the manager of my apartment building. So, you know, to have those rent savings and just kind of like figure things out as it relates to, you know, doing fundraisers. I had t-shirts, and all of my members were getting a t-shirt that said "Support of the Capri Law Fund" shirt. By the way, all these years later, like 20 years later, put a little polyester in a t-shirt, and it lasts a long time. But and then people continued to support me even as I went to London to study. And I do encourage folks to look at other programs like study abroad, et cetera, study abroad opportunities. But I really just wanted to weigh in and say, you know, making that decision to go part-time, I commend you, Melinda, because I didn't think I had the bandwidth. I kind of know I didn't have the bandwidth and the discipline to do work in the day and go to school at night. And of course you're juggling, you know, being a mom. So I just don't know if anyone else wanted to weigh in on part-time versus full-time, or, you know, how to juggle family obligations. All right, seeing that no one has unmuted. Samantha, do you have another question, or is there another question in the chat?
Nothing in the chat, but I think one maybe important addition to that conversation of like juggling multiple responsibilities when preparing for law school or doing law school is how to incorporate LSAT studying potentially into an already busy schedule. So Jennifer, if there's any advice maybe you can share from the LSAC perspective on balancing multiple responsibilities with preparing for the LSAT, making sure that you're still doing that very efficiently.
Yeah, thank you for asking a great question. I think first and foremost, the best way to start is to take a diagnostic exam cold. That might sound shocking to most people, but a lot of these skills that are required to excel on the LSAT and throughout law school, you very much probably have a lot of them. So it's a good way to just see where you stand and see where you need to grow. After you take a diagnostic, you can do that through Khan Academy, which is free LSAT preparation on our website. Then you can cultivate a study plan as to how many hours you need to dedicate not only to the exam, but the particular sections that you might be weak in or strong in. So I think that's a really great way to approach it. And Khan Academy has a really great personalized tool that will assess those needs for you and then give you a plan. And then all you have to do is show up, right? And that's going to mean dedicating your weekends to studying. I know that was the case for me. So just kind of creating those boundaries, seeing the time that you need to map out for studies, and then seeing the time that you have free, and then you can incorporate your social life, your other responsibilities within that. Also making time at, even a half hour at lunch in between your other obligations can really make a difference. And those hours and minutes build up and make you stronger as you go along.
Yeah, definitely great advice. One section of the LSAT is only 35 minutes, so all you need is a 35 to 45-minute break to do one. And it's great practice, so it can definitely be broken down into bite-sized pieces for sure. We have about 3 minutes left. So Capri, I'll hand it off to you if you have another question for our
I
last
just
couple minutes.
wanted to acknowledge Nicole Bryant, who is the COO of the Civil Rights Department and a recent law school graduate from Southwestern Law School. She actually went to school at night while working for the county full time. And I just wanted to see if she wanted to weigh in about the full-time versus a part-time experience.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Capri. So I definitely felt it was necessary. I was one of those people who had been in my career for long enough where I felt it wasn't beneficial to me to quit my job. I had worked there for so long, I didn't want to do that. So I never even considered full-time. And it was hard. Going to school part-time is hard, but if you can schedule yourself and make a plan for yourself, let your friends and your family know early and often about what you're doing and how important it is to you. And I'm sure they'll find the importance of it too. So if you just communicate that to your family, to your friends, and to your classmates, because sometimes some people do have more time and they expect you to be able to study on, Wednesday at 2 o'clock when you're at work at that time. So you have to tell people what you're doing. And I think part-time is possible. So for anyone considering law school, you can do it. I did it. It takes a little bit longer. It takes 4 years instead of 3 years. And even at Southwestern, they have a 2-year accelerated program. So if you are wanting to do something like, okay, I know I want to go full-time, there are programs out there where you can actually say, I'm going to just take off for 2 years and I'm just going to do it. So just look into all the programs and figure out what works best for you. There are a lot of different options now that weren't previously available. So just look into all the programs and see what works best for you. And I also know people who switched. They were in the part-time program and they said, this doesn't work for me, and they switched to full-time. So there are options, and work with your school, work with the administrators, work with your family and friends to do what works best for you.
All right. Thank you so much, Nicole. And for our panelists, Samantha, I don't know if there's anything else our panelists would like to share. It's parting thoughts, but it's really been refreshing to have all of you on the call today with us.
Yeah, I'd just like to share, keep showing up, keep asking questions and ask more questions. And if you don't get the answers that you need, then ask again and ask someone else. But yeah, keep getting your hustle on and keep showing up.
All right, and with that, I think we're going to leave the breakout room, and I'll see you all back in the main session as we wrap things up. And thank you all for being here with us as panelists or as our guests. This was really informative. Take care, keep the faith, keep the fight.
Thank you all.